Hey guys, and welcome back to Layah Inspired, powered by Icon Plus and sponsored by Cake Wallet. If you don't know, Cake Wallet are a super cool open source Monero mobile wallet, which I use, so totally recommend them. You can check them out on Twitter. It's just Cake Wallet. But since this is sponsored and powered by Icon Plus, I want to give you guys a really quick Icon news announcement. It's quite cool. So Icon is actually helping with the fight against COVID-19 as Icon's My ID COVID tracking system gets adopted by South Korea's tourist hotspot, Jeju Island. Quite interesting since borders are starting to open up again. So back to Layah Inspired, I have a really interesting guest today. He's a fighter and I'm super into the wrestling. I don't think he knows this. He's into crypto. I'm a Bitcoiner. It is none other than Ben Askren. Ben, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
What's up? I'm doing great. I had a busy morning. I've already been on one podcast. I had a little business call before this and hopped on, and I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So if you didn't know, I'm actually quite a huge fan of wrestling. I've kind of like grown up with like my brothers forcing me to wrestle, watching
Really?
UFC,
But wait.
watching WWE. I know we've not spoken about this, but it's true.
Okay. Wait,
It's
but
true.
I thought wrestling wasn't so not WWE, but wrestling. I thought
Yeah.
wrestling wasn't all that popular in the UK.
I feel like wrestling's bigger in the States, right? Just because everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
And everything's just bigger in the States, right?
Yeah.
But no, it is. And I
Okay.
saw this week you were on the phone to Triple H. So what the hell is that? Tell me.
Well, you know what? You're the first person to actually ask me about it. Is that me or you?
What is
Here's
it?
the
What can you
feedback.
hear? Oh,
Okay.
I can't hear feedback. I don't know. Let me check
I'll
in the
ignore it.
comments if anyone's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
So, no, this guy, Nick Khan, reached out to me. We had kind of went back and forth about another subject in email. And then he said, "Hey, would you want to talk to Triple H?" I said, "Sure." And then I asked my buddy who Nick Khan was. He's like, "Oh man, that guy, he's a really big deal." And so I looked Nick up. Nick's a huge deal, which he was very humble because he didn't bring up the fact that he was such a big deal.
Yeah.
And then I got on the phone with Triple H, and I'm only 12 days out from my hip surgery right now.
Right.
So I told him, "Hey, I've got hip surgery in 12 days." He said, "Okay, well, after you start feeling better from the hip surgery, then hit us up." And he wants to fly me down, and I don't think I want to be a
Wow.
full-time WWE guy. Listen, I'm entertained by it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a huge fan, but I'm a fan. And so, I would enjoy doing something with them. I'm not sure what that's going to look like.
Well, in what capacity would you want to do something with them? Because WWE is super showbiz. I feel
Yeah.
like you kind of have that showbiz vibe, all about like big on the talk and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like it could work. So in what capacity would it suit you?
Well, I mean, just that what I think about is like I really enjoy my life the way it is. I have my
Okay.
podcast. I have my brother and I own 5 wrestling academies together, and I coach there all the time, and I really enjoy that. So, it's like if it was old school wrestling where you got to travel 5 days a week, like, no, there's no way. I got 3 young kids. That's just not happening. But, if it was like, hey, show up twice a month or something like that, sure. Yeah. Well, that sounds like fun. Maybe I could do that. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that's going to look like. We didn't get to, we just had a nice, fun conversation for 20 minutes. And I said we would follow up after the hip surgery.
Nice. How are you
Yeah.
feeling after your hip surgery?
No, it's in 12 days.
It's in 12 days. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you expecting to fight again? Can we expect anything coming up like months after that? Or are you sort of just off?
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to fight. I think it's highly unlikely. But I hopefully I'll be feeling better than I felt in quite a long time because it's I mean it's worse now than it's ever been. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So like I'm like 12 days. Like I was showing a move last night at the wrestling academy and I freaking like went down in pain. It was it was bad. So yes, I'm looking forward to feeling better.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And this is kind of what I want to get into because, you've put yourself in the ring, I guess I could say, and you've had, plenty of fights. So we'll get to that. But this week you did launch a mindset course. So firstly, congratulations to that. That's really exciting. That's totally fits in with his vibe. So that's really cool. And with mindset, getting in the ring, having, I guess, like, the shit kicked out of you and all that basically. How do you do that, right? Like, how do you get back in the ring again? especially after a loss? Like, how do you do that? What is that mindset that you need to be able to get back in again, basically?
Yeah. Well, so I mean that my courses on failure or dealing with adversity, kind of, right? I think they're kind of the same thing ish. So
100%.
here's my story. It's like so I played a lot of sports growing up, but wrestling was kind of what was the one I liked the most. And I also wasn't very good, so I took a lot of L's. Right, I did not have a lot of success, and so I had to learn how to bounce back. And I think that's one of the best things that wrestling teaches kids that from a young age. It is one-on-one. Like when you lose, you can't say, "Oh, it was my teammate's fault. It was the coach's fault for a bad strategy." No, it's like you go out there, you shake their hand, you wrestle, you win or lose, and you take ownership of that. And so from a young age, I learned how to deal with that. And then as I got better and better and better, it's not like the losses stopped. Right, they still kept happening. And so you learn how to bounce back. And, that's something that I think a lot of people maybe don't necessarily have to feel a lot in their life because they don't compete in a one-on-one sport. And I feel like, where it really stuck out to a lot of people was after the George fight. I mean, I was 19-0. I didn't lose in nearly a decade of mixed martial arts, and I lost. And to me, it was like, okay, right? I've lost 100 other times in my life. Whatever. I'm the same guy July 7th as I was July 5th. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep moving forward. I mean, that definitely wasn't ideal what happened, but it's also not going to stop me from going where I want to go.
Yeah, no, 100%. You have to just keep going. But I think what's really interesting, and I think this sort of stretches outside of fighting. It's just kind of one of those things where everybody knows what's coming up. Everybody knows there's a fight, or even, if somebody knows you're starting a new job, somebody knows you're starting something new, you're doing something, you big it up. I guess it's part of like the showbiz vibe. You big it up, you say this is happening, and then it doesn't go to plan, like the whole Hayden Masvidal fight. So how do you then deal with that afterwards?
Well, so here that's humanity. I just brought this up on Monday. I was on Errol's show on Monday with Daniel Cormier. And it's like, dude, you could be as good as you want in life. Like you can accomplish. I was 19-0, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Cormier won multiple UFC titles, was in the Olympics multiple times, and people still want to call him a bridesmaid or a failure. And it's like, dude, that was a dude that accomplished more than 99.9999, right? I mean, we're talking about the highest percentile, and people still call him a failure. That's humanity, right? I am literally not worried at all about that because you literally can't. If you are worried about that, that's going to prevent you from doing something that you want to do. Especially the first module in my course is all about, there's a lot of people who never start something because they're worried about the end result. They don't start because they're worried about what the end result is.
It drives me mad.
Even if you started MMA or wrestling and you became as successful as Daniel Cormier, which again is like the highest percentile, and you fail a couple times, people are going to try to call you a failure, right? That's just what happens. So you have to accept that is part of the deal. When you start something, you are not going to be flawless in your execution of it. You are going to have failure, you're going to have struggle, and that's fine because that's part of it.
And it's funny, right? Because the people that scream failure or the people that sort of laugh at you are the ones sitting in their comfort zone, too afraid to even do anything, right?
Well, and lots of times it's because that's what they think about, right? That's where their mind is. So that they can't let themselves out because, when they're saying, Daniel Cormier, you suck, you know what? When they're thinking about going to do something, they're saying, well, you can't go do that because you suck. They're literally talking to themselves saying, no, you're going to fail. People are going to make fun of you. You're going to get embarrassed. You're going to look bad. They're literally, I mean, that's the self-talk that's coming through themselves. So, like a lot of people say, do I hate my trolls? No, actually, a lot of times I kind of feel bad for them, right? They need someone.
Oh, okay. I like this. This is very Barry V. I like it.
Seriously, but they need someone in their life to give them a hug. They need someone in their life to tell them they can do it. And, when people ask me about the wrestling academies, it's like the thing I get most out of the wrestling academies, there's a lot of kids in their life. And some of them have great parents, some of them have other great teachers, but some of them have no one in their life that tells them, look, I'm going to look you in the eyes and I'm going to tell you, you can do it. And sometimes I'm telling you, stop being a baby. You can do it. Sometimes I'm telling you, that's okay. You failed. You can do it. But I'm going to tell you, you can do it. I'm going to tell you that. And that's
I'm inspired.
True. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And that's so important. So when you can finally get a kid to believe in himself, that is a really powerful thing because, and when you think of the one side of it, like some kids have such shit parents that they feel like they can't ever go try anything because their parents telling them, you suck, you're stupid, you're not good enough. Like that's freaking depressing.
I totally agree with you. I think, just for someone just to tell you that you can do something is the most powerful thing. I know it's really
Yeah.
cliche, but it's so true when someone says sort of like, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And I wasn't actually going to go into this, but I kind of just want to touch on it. So I want to know your thoughts on the education system then, right? Because it doesn't teach us. I know I wasn't going to go into it, but like you said, you did wrestling as a kid. So it was kind of like that one-to-one, you felt that loss. So you sort of were able to build that relationship with failure. So what happens if someone didn't do that sport and they literally rely on the education system to give them that strength?
Yeah, well, I mean, so in addition, I did have good coaches also, right? I had some really good
Yes.
coaches when I was younger, growing up, who they did the same thing to me, right? They helped me bounce back from losses. They told me I could do it. They supported me. My parents were also very supportive, right? So I had good people around me, and I'm thankful that that was the case because obviously it helped me become who I am. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on the education system, and I don't know if it's the exact same in England, but I know obviously in America, I would say it wasn't really a great fit for me because I'm kind of like free spirit, want to do my own thing, and it's more like, here's the rules, you stay within it. And I wasn't I wasn't a bad student because I was always smart enough to get by, but I wasn't an excellent student either because I just wasn't as interested in the subject matter as I needed to be successful. I was more obsessed with wrestling or things on the side. That's what I was really obsessed about. Uh-oh, she went away. Are we still
Hello,
on? You
hello,
there?
hello,
You back?
hello. Are we live? Can you hear me?
I
I
can
think
hear
we
you, yeah.
might. Ben, can you? I don't know what happened. That's a
I'm back.
shame. I feel like you're back. I'm back. Okay, guys. Well, we've still got our viewers. So thanks, guys, for sticking around. So wait, you were literally just about to say something about the education system. You're not an expert on it, but
Oh, okay. Well,
give me throw
so I
something.
kept
Yeah,
talking. So, I was just saying it didn't fit me perfectly. I wasn't a
right.
terrible student, but I wasn't a great student either because I wasn't interested enough in the subject matter. And had I had more freedom to kind of explore what excited me more, then I probably would have. I would have excelled even more.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think there's a massive issue right now with the education system. I think so that's why we all sort of start laughing about it because there is a lack of sort of motivation, mindset. That's why we have people like yourself bringing out these courses. So
Yes.
you're also working as a bit of a coach. So explain to me, what do you teach? What are like your 5 main key rules that you would say to somebody when it comes to sort of tackling life adversity, failure, and so on?
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know if I have 5 key rules or anything.
You can have 3. It's okay.
As many as I want. I think so I think one of the biggest things that I help my kids with, and this is, again, go back to the success fail or the deal and failure course, is like I don't necessarily put things in the same dynamics a lot of people do. So, for example, when a kid goes to wrestle, it's like all I want right now is your best effort. If you give me your best effort, I'm going to be able to help you do the rest. As opposed to like, I want you to win. Like, obviously, if you
Right.
win, that's great. But what I really want is your best effort. When we're practice, give me your best effort. And if we can do those things, I'll take care of the rest, right? I'll worry about your technique. I'll worry about everything else. Give me your best effort. And that's kind of the biggest thing that we really focus on a lot.
I like that. I like that. And I think, it takes the pressure off kids, making it all about the win, all about the failure. It's all about just putting your best in, believing that you can, and then sort of going from there. So yeah, totally with you. But you said that you wouldn't necessarily get back in and fight properly again. So I guess sort of looking back, what would you say is the main thing that you've learned throughout all of this?
Oh my god. Well,
The
I think
title's called Layah Inspired. You couldn't have expected
yeah.
anything less. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh, I think there could be a book on that. Man, I think it would go back to the failure course, and I would say, for me, it's like just keep moving forward. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be failure. That's good for you. That teaches you, and that's going to make you better at whatever you do. So, for example, right? Like we launched the course. Would I have liked to sell $1 million in the first week? Sure. Did we sell $1 million? No. Okay. Well, there's room for improvement. Okay.
Yes,
How
for
do
sure.
this is the first course I've released. How do we do it? I mean, that was what my meeting was right before this.
Oh, okay.
Sat down and so it's like, and that's everything, right? You're not going to knock it out of the park. You're not going to be flawless on the first try ever at anything,
Of
right?
course.
And so it's just how do you get better? How do you deal with adversity? And that's kind of probably the biggest thing, so we'll just say combat sports, right? Wrestling and MMA, because that's something I've done almost the entirety of my life. How do you bounce back from things?
Do you have any regrets in the career?
I don't have any regrets. I
love that.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where, and this is kind of, again, thought process, but you can't really change the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can learn from the past. So take things that happen, learn from them, but you can't change it. And so this is, again, and then if we go into performance, and so I've been doing Mental Monday, what I call Mental Mondays, on my social media for about 5 years, where I take questions, right? They DM me questions and I answer them. And the literally the number one most asked thing, and it's not even close, right? There's a lot of different versions of it, but essentially is my kid and it's mostly wrestling, my audience.
Mm-hmm.
My kid gets to the big match and they fail in the big match. Okay.
Yeah.
Or, right, it's some version of that. Why does that happen? And for most people, that happens because they're thinking about the wrong things, right? So and we're talking, right, really specifically performing or competing. So performing, I mean, giving a speech, right? Doing a podcast would be essentially a performance, right?
Okay.
Any of those things where you actually have to be in the moment. Think about things that don't matter, right? Right now, Layah, if you're really worried about what people on Twitter are thinking of you, you're not going to do a good job podcasting. You're not going to be in it.
You're
Right?
right.
If you're in a wrestling match and you're thinking about the crowd, well, I should be thinking about how I pin the guy, not the crowd. If I'm really genuinely thinking about the crowd, I'm not going to do the activity really well. And so I think that is like, man, if people can actually understand that, if they can really get that, and then obviously there's understanding and then there's being really good at it, right? There's practicing and there's being really key. How do I key in on this moment, what I'm doing right now? If you could do that really, really well, that's going to make people so much better.
My gosh, you're so right. And I think, everything we do in public, like right now, is a performance. So it's true. If you think about, if you're focused on what people are thinking about you on Twitter, then you're actually going to trash your performance entirely. Because like you said, you're not thinking about getting, what you need to get out or pinning the guy or whatever it is. So you are quite big into crypto. So that's obviously how we got connected. So this is really cool because it's really unique. Crypto is super niche. And I think it's very different to hear people outside of this crazy bubble that have taken an interest in it. So take us from the beginning. How the hell did you hear about crypto? And what was like that red pill moment? Like, why were you just like, Bitcoin's bullshit? Like, what really sold it for you?
Well, I would say I was kind of red pill before crypto. I think, like we have the as my podcast right there.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. I think it is reading the Ron Paul and understanding, really what is.
It's always Ron Paul, isn't it?
It is. So I think we've done 37 episodes of Funky Crypto Podcast. So that's like, it's essentially a crypto show for beginners. And one of our main questions is, how did you get into it? I would say it's minimum 50% Ron Paul people. Like literally, like if Ron Paul knows how many people he red pilled, he should be effing proud of himself. I mean, that's like one of the most, he is such a convincing thinker. But so when I was open to it, so I could tell you literally exactly the moment. My buddy lives in Australia. I fought in Shanghai. He flew to me. He flew to a bunch of my fights because he's from America, but he lives in Australia. So whenever I'd go to Asia, a lot of times he would fly to meet me. And he said he had a spreadsheet out. It was I think August 28th of 2017. So right before, it kind of as the run was getting started. And
that's pretty decent.
Hey, you need to get into this. And it literally took me 5 minutes. I said, I got it, right? I totally get it.
But why? What did you hear from Ron Paul that you were like, oh, okay, now that makes sense? Like, what the hell did he say to you?
I think a lot of people think that the dollar is the only important thing in the world, the only important source of value in the world. And once you realize that kind of anything can be money, and over the course of history, a lot of things have been money, and then that good money has very specific properties. And I think Bitcoin kind of meets all those criteria. And obviously, this isn't a stranger talking to me, right? This is a guy who I trust, who I know, who knows me. And so we can get down to the nitty gritty of the conversation really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing I remember is like, I literally bought like that day. I'm like, all right, freaking log me on a
Oh,
bike.
did you?
Oh,
What did
yeah,
you
that day.
buy? What did you buy?
I don't. So listen, I really wish I would have bought all Bitcoin at that point. I can tell you,
No, you bought
I
some
could.
Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, so much. I could tell you. I'll tell you. So over the course of that, it was really annoying because in the beginning they would only let you buy like, I want to say my limit was like $5,000 a week or something.
Oh wow, where were you buying from?
I don't even.
Coinbase.
I don't even recall at this point in time. This is a long. I
Okay.
bought a bunch of ERC20 tokens.
Okay.
Also, but yeah, they don't let you buy
You went all in. There was no chill with you
I'll tell you
whatsoever.
this, I spent $50,000 in like, so I got my limit bumped up pretty quickly. So I think I spent $50,000 within 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh my
Something like
God.
that. And my
Wow.
$50,000 went to about $150,000 within the next, say, 8 to 12 weeks, right? Like that end of 2017 was wild. And then I got the right. I got to deal with the tough part of it. So then my $150,000 ish went to like 25.
Oh, you took no profit. You took no profit.
I didn't think anything. I talk openly about that on the John. I'm with John. Is like I didn't cash out. Like the one that was the biggest winner in that series. I bought Pillar Token. They're still around. Their product's actually relatively good. I've just held everything, but I think I bought for roughly 10 cents, and I think their token went to $1.50, so 15x. So I went from like, I think I bought like $3,000, and it was worth like, ended up being worth $50,000, and I probably should have sold at $50,000. Now it's worth like 1,500 or something to that. Yeah, so I got to experience within a really short time window. I got to experience the mania and then the crash, so I got to see it all. But I bought in because I believed in the concept of Bitcoin. Well, that's why I bought in. And so I talked to John about this. It's like, well, I know there's going to be a run up coming, and I think I'm going to have a really hard time selling because I believe in the long-term vision of sound money, and it's not just about making money for me. It's about that. I literally think this is the future.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like sort of a dichotomy right now between Bitcoiners, because some people are in it for the profits, right? So they're like, okay, you got to know when the top is, take it for get your profits at the top. But there's also an issue because people are like, hang on, if you really believe in this new revolution, if you believe in sort of like overturning the banksters, as they say, then you wouldn't sell at all, right?
Yes.
Because why would you sort of buy into the banks and fiat and so on by gaining your profits?
Yes.
Which is what you won't. So you sort of.
I agree. I mean, well, so right then the pushback would be then, and I don't know where I fall yet. The pushback would be, well, you could sell when it goes to mania, you sell and then you buy back more. Obviously that would be the pushback, and I don't. I said I don't know.
That way you get a bit of both.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know. Maybe I'll just like there's a lot of really good products like say at BlockFi. They sponsored us for a while. Maybe I put my crypto in there and earn interest or something, so that way I don't have to sell it. It's still mine, but I'm making money off it. Maybe I do that. I got to figure out exactly what I'm going to do because I'm not sure.
There's like too many options right now with DeFi and this and that. It's crazy. So how do you ever try to sort of like bring crypto to your sort of colleague fighters? I don't know, you're on the phone to Triple H. You ever like, yo, Triple H, have you seen Bitcoin? Like it's like making new all-time highs this year. Like, is that happening or?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I think fighters.
Dana White, like, let me tell you.
One of the other guys who's really high up in the UFC calls me frequently about Bitcoin. It's really funny. Because one time this guy called me and he's talking about Bitcoin. Well, what about this or what about that? And we started talking about Bitcoin. And then, we've been talking for like 10 minutes. I'm like, did you just call me to talk about Bitcoin, or did you call me to like? He's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to offer you a fight.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
I'm like, oh, that's why you called me. And then, so long story, I'm not gonna tell you what the fight was or anything, but yeah. So then, but it was really funny because he called and just started talking about Bitcoin for a while, and then eventually I'm like, did you really just call just to talk about Bitcoin? So yeah, I mean, I think the way I view my role in this is I'm not like a super crypto expert. I'm not as smart as a lot of these guys. They're really brilliant. I think I understand the basics and I understand the value proposition. And so I think my role is to kind of put a few thoughts out there for people, and
Yeah.
then some people will be interested, and you never know what's going to click with some people to make them say, "Oh, okay, well, let me look more into that," right? And then hopefully, they hear me and John talking on a low level about some things, and maybe something clicks them, and then maybe they start digging for themselves, right? Because you never want to force anyone's thoughts into taking a risk with their money. You want them to want to do that themselves. You want them to understand what sound money is, why Bitcoin has a really good value proposition. You want them to get that for themselves and then go obviously act on that.
Yeah, I'm totally with you because I think I don't know if you saw, but did you remember when J.K. Rowling asked what is Bitcoin on Twitter? Were you there for that?
Yeah.
And okay, so it was just like a storm and a herd just running at her, like, you need Bitcoin, you gotta get it now. This is how you get it. Like,
Seriously.
let me teach you. Suddenly everyone was like super charitable with their Bitcoin. And I think sort of like things like that would scare people away, right?
Yeah.
Sort of saying you need to have it, you've got to buy it, because I think with anything outside of Bitcoin, whenever anyone's trying to tell you what to do with your money, it's off-putting. You get your walls up, don't you?
Yeah. And then obviously there's just like I mean, that's kind of like anything in life, right? When people come at
Yes,
you too hard, it
exactly.
makes you kind of pull back, I mean, that's really anything.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. So then, okay, so you've obviously got a huge audience, mainly wrestling, I guess, sort of audience.
Yeah.
So if you had to, no, I wouldn't give you. Okay, I'm not going to put the pressure on you and tell you to red pill them. But if you had to, sort
I
of
try.
like, oh yeah, go on. How would you red pill them? Give us like your Bitcoin quick elevator pitch.
On Bitcoin or on life?
We'll do two. Let's do Bitcoin first.
Well, did Epstein kill himself? I mean, what do you think?
Did Epstein kill himself? What's that got to do with Bitcoin? Tell me.
Well, it has to do with red pilling.
It does.
Why?
It's true.
Do you think he
it's
did
true.
or not?
Actually, you're right. I stand corrected. Do I? Oh, no, I don't think he killed himself.
No,
well, I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm a Bitcoiner. Why I don't think he killed himself?
No, he didn't kill himself. Yeah. So I think. Well, you know what I think that goes in with the red pilling and the Bitcoin. I think it goes in with some people literally think the federal government is, and this obviously we're in different countries, but they think it's all knowing, it's all seeing, and they think it has the best monetary policy ever, and they're always looking out for your best interest at all times. And I think once you realize maybe the federal government is not looking out for my best interest, maybe I should take some of this. Take some initiative and take this into my own hands. That lots of times I think then leads you to being more open to, oh, wait, the Federal Reserve is not actually owned by the U.S. government. It's actually owned by other people. Oh, really? So I think that's kind of like, once you understand those things, I think they go kind of hand in hand.
And then it's kind of like a massive scam that they don't tell us this, right? Like if we go back to school and education, that we know nothing about monetary policy, we know nothing about what the dollar is supposedly backed by and so on, right? And it's so funny because everyone in crypto constantly like screams scam, but like to me, the biggest scam in life is just sort of the education system and the lack of knowledge that it teaches us, basically, or the lack of sort of motivation to be an individual thinker and think things for yourself and so on. So if you had to give a kind of red pill then for life, so that was Bitcoin. If you had to red pill someone on life and power, and how you get in the ring all the time and get back in there, get kicked and punched and hurt and bruised, and now you need an operation. How do you do it? What would you say?
Well, I don't think I don't even try to red pill most people because they're not really ready for it.
They don't want it, do they?
They don't want it. They want it. They want to listen to what's your guys' main news station? Like, they want to listen to what Fox News or CNN has to tell them, and they want to just accept that to be complete and total reality. They don't want to question anything. They want to think that the dollar is all knowing and all seeing. And that's where they want to live their life. And listen, I'm not going to judge you. If that's what you want from your life, that's fine. And I hope you do really well, and I hope you live a great life. But that's not where I'm at. I kind of want to question everything. I want to dig deep. I want to turn over every stone. I want to know as much as I can know. I want to be inquisitive. And that's kind of the way.
You just led me to another question. Then I have to ask you. Do you know what it is or not? Do you know what I'm going to ask you next?
No, I have no idea.
You don't have no idea. I'm going to ask you about coronavirus. I just have to ask you. Since you're questioning everything,
I am.
firstly, okay. So let's talk a little bit about that then. So what do you think is going on, particularly in America?
It's such a hard one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, particularly in America, we've seen how they've sort of like bumped up the death numbers. So it's like if somebody dies of a heart attack, but like I don't know, they might have had COVID, they may not have had COVID, but like we'll just put them on the COVID list. That's kind of concerning, you know. That sort of inflates and creates sort of unnecessary hysteria. So I'll open the floor to you.
Yeah, you know what, with Corona, it's been interesting because I haven't taken. In the beginning, I was legit scared. I watched a bunch of videos from China in like February and January. I'm like, oh damn! Like I didn't leave my house for 14 days. I was like,
oh no way, that's hilarious.
Yes, I was very concerned.
I love that. I'm sorry.
And now as it's went on longer, it seems to not be as big of a deal. And then the it is getting politicized 1000%. It's so politicized. It's annoying as shit. And so for me, I am struggling with it because I want to respect people's fear, right? Even if someone has a fear of something and it's not tied to reality, I kind of want to respect their space, right? At the same time, my wrestling academy has been open since June 1st. We've had hundreds of kids. We've done camps. We've had kids come from all over the country. We've had no proliferation whatsoever of any coronavirus. We've had a couple kids get it from other places. Then they call and tell us, hey, I had this. I haven't been in since whatever day. Okay, cool. You know what? Even though they haven't been in since last Tuesday, I'm going to go tell whoever you're with the day before that, just in case. And we've had zero issue whatsoever. People don't seem to be even concerned in the slightest bit. So I'm having a hard time, you know, my reality of what I see every single day in the wrestling academy, and wrestling's about as close as you're going to get to a person. And then the reality of what people are trying to tell me to be worried about and what I see on TV, they don't match up. So I'm really struggling with that. I think, I mean, I'm hoping that it's starting to wind down here in America. The numbers have been declining for 5 weeks now, but it has been gross how much things have been politicized. And you know, and this is, listen, both people are at fault. Both sides are at fault, right? In America, it's very two-partied right now. People are trying to run whatever angle they want that they think helps them the most politically, as opposed to just saying, here's our problem, because it is definitely a real thing. And whether it says, I think I'll look right now so I don't misspeak.
Okay, go for it.
Hold on, but it says now in America it has killed. Oh, GD, the website's being slow.
That's all right.
I think 170,000-ish. We'll say. Okay. It says in America it's killed 176,000. So whether the number's 176,000 or maybe they've inflated it, it's 120,000, right? Maybe it's a little larger. That's still quite a few people, and you don't want to make those lives seem meaningless. Oh, it's just 120,000 people. But then at the same time, on the other side, it's like, well, a lot of people die of the flu and people die of obesity and the people die of car accidents. So it's like you can't, you know, we live in a world where you can't totally put yourself in a bubble either. So it's
and it is, and we've seen actually how it's had negative effects keeping people locked down, whether that be because, you know, in London, for example, that's where I'm based at the moment. A lot of people live in tiny little townhouses and they have no garden. People live on their own, they're completely isolated. The mental health implications, not being able to work out, not being able to see family, pressure on relationships almost has caused a lot more havoc, and sort of people sort of didn't expect it to go so badly when they sort of decided to keep us all locked down, basically. So vaccine or no vaccine?
Well, I've never taken a flu shot, and I don't want anything to be mandated. Absolutely not. I mean, that would be an infringement on our freedoms.
Yes, you're a true Bitcoiner.
I go both ways though, because then it's also like, well, there were these really bad diseases a long time ago that they created vaccines for, and that has made the world a significantly better place. I think we'd say. So, but then there's in America they have the vaccine courts where they're held non-liable for anything. So, man, I think it's like an issue that I wish would be more transparent and more open for people.
Not in this world, though.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. So
not in this world.
Yes.
What about masks then? Masks, like you said, you're all about freedom. So, so I'm not saying I'm not saying should people wear them. I'm saying, do you think they should be mandatory and, actual criminal fines for not wearing one?
I would say not mandatory, right? I would say if a certain business wants to do that because that's their beliefs, I think they probably have the right to do so. You know, but then I also go back to, right. I don't mean to be playing the fence, but I kind of am, and I'm playing the fence because I don't know what the right answer is, and I think I'm, I guess, humble enough to admit that. You know, like when you go to, I spent a lot of time in Asia. When I fought there for 4 years exclusively, a lot of people there wear masks, especially when you're on a plane in Asia. Man, I would say 60% of people wear masks, right? It's a really high number, and so, you know, that's kind of already a part of their everyday life. And, you know, some of them have had better success than America or the European countries. But then you'd also say, well, their obesity rates are lower, their life expectancies are longer, they're a little healthier. Yeah. So, you know,
I hear you. I hear you. I think for me, just like the biggest concern is a lot of the laws that have been put in are very much just for the short term. But I think it's very hard to sort of undo those laws, right? I think I was speaking to somebody recently and they told me about a lot of, so this was actually before my time. Well, no, it's not before my time. When 9/11 happened, all these new security laws came into place. Now, I don't remember life flying. I must have been like 5 years old. So I don't remember what it was like to fly. I'm 24.
Oh my God.
I'm 24. Okay.
I was a senior in high school when that happened. So
so
17.
Yeah, no, I'm 24. So I was too young to remember what life was like flying before 9/11. But I understand that apparently there weren't all those security measures, and now they haven't taken them back. So what happens, you know, with this social distancing thing? Like, there's never going to be a moment whereby Corona's finished. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
Well, no,
I'm not a doctor. It's got to go away sometime, doesn't it?
Yeah, but a gradual go away. It's not going to be like we wake up one day. It's not like taking like antibiotics and then like done, you're fine, you're healed. It seems to be like a slow, gradual, you know, going away, which sort of means like, when do we loosen these restrictions? Like, should we just keep them a little bit longer in case? You know, should we just keep this social distancing precautions in place? Because, you know, there's still a little bit of Corona lingering. You know, if we give them a bit, when do they take a mile and keep it?
I don't know. I think that's what a lot of people are worried about. I don't know that that's going to be reality, and I don't want to say that is till we get there. So, yeah, but that's again a really, really tough one.
For sure. Ben, go on, give us your final thoughts then.
Final thoughts on...
let me see if I can put you on full screen. I should know how to do that. Let's give it a go. Oh, that's me. Hey, guys. There we go. That's you. Go on, Ben. Give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I appreciate you having me on. I love that you're trying to put crypto out there. I think that's going to give people more freedom in their everyday lives. And then, you know, I guess kind of like I said, you can check out my website, benaskren.com. I just made a course on dealing with failure and adversity that I think is really good. And I really love being able to help people accomplish more in life and telling them they can do it, because I think that's a strong message that they're not always getting from a lot of different people.
That's beautiful. Let's make it back. There we go. Ben, thank you so much. I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to Cake Wallet, our sponsors, and Icon Plus for powering it. Guys, over and out. We will see you all soon next week.
Yeah. Peace.